Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for joining me. I have some news to share with you. The war is still ongoing, the bloody war. TDF is still in control of Gashena and Lalibela, but the uh, the Amara militia, Fano, all militia from around the country, plus the Ethiopian Defense Force, with the help of Eritreans, they are fighting back to retake Gashena and Lalibela. Plus, the war is going on a Gondar area, so no ending side to the conflict. So I will report to you whenever the breakthrough, any breaking news happen, I will let you know. So the war is going on, but I will share very important news coverage by New York Times. You might already heard from different media. This is very crucial uh, for the case on the Ethiopian civil war. So thank you again for joining me December 16, 2021. And as you already knew from media outlets by Ethiopian government supported financed media, SAD, Fana, Walta, Zahabasha, uh, all pro-government and the government-owned medias like OBN, all of them, plus the prosperity cadres, prosperity supporters, and those in diaspora community, uh, they were talking about the cause of this conflict as TDF as the main cause of the conflict. All of them repeatedly, even now, after even the report uh, was out, even now they are repeating the same thing. Uh, they are deafening our ears with the reasoning that TDF attacked the northern front, then Ethiopia started the war. According to New York Times, this is busted. This is busted. And that was not the reason. That was not the main reason. The war was already uh, calculated, planned between Isaias Afwerki and Abiy Ahmed before the TDF even engaged the northern front. So that was the reason, the main reason. And the Concerned Citizens Media also reported around that time that even before the war started, there are so many indications that Ethiopia is, getting ready for the war, and TDF was preparing to defend itself. So, uh, you know, the Concerned Citizens Media urged at the time and call on the peace-loving citizens to, to stop, to end, that preparation in a peaceful manner. The Ethiopian government, led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his supporters, they cut the budget. They, threaten TDF for holding election. It's legal, and they didn't want to postpone because of the COVID-19. They did conduct a very fairly election, and the TDF won. And they removed Tigrayans from every sector of federal jobs, including the military, the police. So those are the, the uh, you know those are the indications. before the start of the war. So thanks to New York Times and I think Reuters too, the reason for this bloody war was Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki plus their security officials repeated engagement about how to eliminate, TDF or TPLF at the time. So it's not TDF attacking the northern front. So I will read a little bit. It's like a 7-page or 7 or 8 page report, but I don't read the whole thing. It's very crucial point, very important, you know, very reasonable and a very crucial point about the truth of this bloody war. And as I said, all the medias supported by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and even the private media, SAT, Zahabasha, all of them, and repeatedly citing the diplomat, the also diaspora community, also repeated the same thing. Northern Command attacked by TDF, and even challenging the United States and other countries by using this as an excuse. How the United States will act if their command center is attacked by one state or another state, blah blah. All this is busted really thanks to the New York Times. This is very essential. And let me read a little bit. Secret meetings with a dictator, clandestine troop movement, months of quiet preparation for a war that was supposed to be a swift and bloodless. New evidence shows that Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had been planning a military campaign in the northern Tigray region for months before war erupted 1 year ago, setting off a cascade of destruction and ethnic violence that has engulfed Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous country. Mr. Abiy, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, seen recently in fatigue, commanding troops on the battlefront, insists that war was foisted upon him, that ethnic Tigrayan fighters fired the first shots in November 2020 when they attacked a federal military base in Tigray, slaughtering soldiers in their beds. That account has become an article of faith for Mr. Abiy and his supporters. In fact, it was a war of choice for Mr. Abiy, one with wheels set in motion even before the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019 that turned him for a time into a global icon of non-violence. The Nobel win stemmed largely from the unlikely peace deal Mr. Abiy struck with Isaias Afwerki, the authoritarian leader of Eritrea, within months of coming to power in 2018. That pact ended 2 decades of hostility and a war between the neighboring rivals and inspired lofty hopes for transformed region. Instead, the Nobel emboldened Mr. Abiy and Mr. Isaias to secretly plot a course for war against their mutual foes in Tigray, according to current and former Ethiopian officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to avoid reprisal or protect family members inside Ethiopia. Yes. This is the right thing to do. Abiy will not hesitate to attack, to carry out, or to use his undercover operatives to attack anybody against it. In the months before fighting erupted in November 2020, Mr. Abiy moved troops toward Tigray and sent military cargo planes into Eritrea. Behind closed doors, his advisers and the military generals debated the merit of a conflict. Those who disagreed were fired, interrogated at a gunpoint, or forced to leave. This is a very serious accusation. Still dazzled by Mr. Abiy's noble, the West ignored those warning signs, the official said, but ultimately it helped to pave the way to war. From that day, Abiy felt he was one of the most influential personalities in the world. Gabra Meskel Kasa, a former senior Abiy administration official now in exile in Europe, said in an interview. He felt he had a lot of international support and that if he went to war in Tigray, nothing would happen. And he was right, he added. Mr. Abiy's spokeswoman, the information minister of Eritrea, and the Norwegian Nobel Committee didn't respond to questions for this article. The quick and easy military victory that Mr. Abiy promised has not come to pass. The Tigrayans routed the Ethiopian troops and their Eritrean allies over the summer, and last month came within 160 miles of the capital Addis Ababa, promoting Mr. Abiy to declare a state of emergency. Recently, the pendulum has swung back, with the government forces retaking two strategic towns that had been captured by the Tigrayans, the latest twist in a conflict that has already cost tens of thousands of lives and pushed hundreds of thousands into famine-like conditions. Analysts say that Mr. Abiy's journey from peacemaker to battlefield commander is a cautionary tale of how the West, desperate to find a new hero in Africa, got this leader speculatory wrong. The West needs to make up for its mistakes in Ethiopia, said Alex Rondos, formerly the European Union's top diplomat in the Horn of Africa. It misjudged Abiy. It empowered Isaias. Now the issue is whether a country of 110 million people can be prevented from unraveling. So it's very long. Let me see. Let me add a little bit. Very long article. A spy chief among the seniors, the singers and the dancers, it says. Mr. Abiy and Mr. Isaias met at least 14 times from the time they signed the peace deal until war broke out, public records and the news reports show. Unusually, the meetings were mostly one-on-one, without aides or note takers, two former Ethiopian officials said. One-on-one, very secret meeting. They also met in secret on at least three other occasions in 2019 and 2020. Mr. Isaias flew into Addis Ababa unannounced, one former official said. Aviation authorities were instructed to keep quiet, and an unmarked car was sent to take him to Mr. Abiy's compound. Around that time, Eritrean officials also regularly visited the Amara region, which has a long history of rivalry with Tigray. Crowds, crowds thronged the streets when Mr. Isaias visited the ancient Amara city of Gondar in November 2018, chanting, Isaias, Isaias, Isaias. Later, a troupe of Eritrean singers and dancers visited Amara, but the delegation included Eritrean spy chief Abraha Kassa, who used the trip to meet with Amara security leaders, the senior Ethiopian officials said. Eritrea later agreed to train 60,000 troops from the Amara Special Forces, a paramilitary unit that later deployed to Tigray. I didn't know that. 60,000 from Amara trained in Asmara. I didn't know this one. Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland in February 2019, Mr. Abiy advocated an effective merger of Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti, a suggestion that dismayed Ethiopian officials who saw it as a straight from the playbook of Mr. Isaias. Aides also saw the remark as a further proof of Mr. Abiy's impulsive tendencies, leading them to cancel his new news conference during the Nobel ceremonies in Oslo 10 months later. The Eritrean pissed off. Irresponsible visions lead to war. Mr. Abiy viewed the Tigrayans as a threat to his authority, perhaps even his life, from his first days in power. The Tigrayans had preferred another candidate as a prime minister, and Mr. Abiy told friends he feared Tigrayan security officials were trying to assassinate him, an acquaintance said. At the prime minister's residence, soldiers were ordered to stand guard on every floor. Mr. Abiy purged ethnic Tigrayans from his security details and created the Republican Guard, a hand-picked unit under his direct control, whose troops were sent for training to the United Arab Emirates, a powerful new ally, also close to Mr. Isaias, a former Ethiopian official said. I didn't know this one too. United Arab Emirates training the Republican Guard. That's why we still see the United Arab Emirates interfering in a conflict in Ethiopia, supporting Abiy Ahmed with drones and with other support. So this is there is some kind of engagement. We don't know what's the deal between Ethiopia or between Abiy Ahmed and the United Arab Emirates. But nobody challenge him, and all are, support him, whatever he's doing, whatever deal he make with Eritrea, with United Arab Emirates. Nobody knows what are, what are the things they signed. Nobody knows. But the unexplained killing of the Ethiopian military chief, General Sahara Mekonnen, on ethnic Tigrayans, who was shot dead by a bodyguard in June 2019, heightened tension. The rift with the Tigrayans was also driven by profound political differences. Within weeks of the Nobel Prize decision, Mr. Abiy created the Prosperity Party, which incarnated his vision of strong, centralized Ethiopian government. But that vision was anathema to the millions of Ethiopians who yearned for greater regional autonomy, in particular the Tigrayans and members of his own ethnic group, the Oromo, accounting for about one-third of the country's 110 million people. The Oromo have long felt excluded from power. Many hoped Mr. Abiy's rise would change that. But the Prosperity Party catered to Mr. Abiy's ambition, not theirs. And in late 2019, violent clash between police officers and protesters erupted across the Oromia region, culminating in the death in June 2020 of a popular singer. Against this tumultuous backdrop, the side toward war accelerated. Ethiopian military cargo planes began to make clandestine flights at night to bases in Eritrea, said a senior Ethiopian official. Mr. Abiy's top aides and military officials privately debated the merits of a war in Tigray, the former official said. Dissidents included Ethiopia Army Chief General Adam Mohammed. By then, the Tigrayans were also gearing up for war, searching for allies in the Northern Command, Ethiopia's most powerful military unit, which was based in Tigray. In September, the Tigrayans went ahead with a regional election in open defiance of an order from Mr. Abiy. Mr. Abiy moved troops from the Somali and the Oromia region toward Tigray. In a video conference call in mid-October, Mr. Abiy told governing party officials that he would intervene militarily in Tigray and that it would take only 3 to 5 days to oust the region's leader, said Mr. Gebre Meskel, the former senior official now in exile. On November 2, the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell Fontelle publicly appealed to both sides to halt provocative military deployment. The next evening, Tigray's forces attacked an Ethiopian military base, calling it a preemptive strike. Eritrean soldiers flooded into Tigray from the north. Amara special forces arrived from south. Mr. Abiy fired General Adam and announced a law enforcement operation in Tigray. So I'm just reading just some part of this report. It is about 7-8 points. Please print it and read it. Yeah, very important, and also keep it for record, because now, thanks to first-hand information, people working with Abiy Ahmed, now maybe they are in exile. So this is very important proof that from this first-hand account, first-hand witness, the war started by Abiy Ahmed. The war is planned, and with the help of Isaias Afwerki and all these clandestine operations, secret meetings. So this is the real reason. Now we know the reason, and but the Ethiopian government still repeat the same thing. Ethiopia attacked, then Ethiopia acted. Still, they want us to believe that. They don't care about this. They may say this is a fake story, fake news, but that is the real reason, according to people inside Abiy Ahmed administration, who knows about all these secret meetings, secret operations. But it's good to know. But what can we do? What can the international community do? What can Ethiopians do? Okay, we are facing bloody war, endless war, because of this. because of lies. These people, they don't have credibility anyway. They lie repeatedly to Ethiopians and to the global community. They lied. They don't care. They don't feel ashamed. There is no accountability for lying. So now we know the reason. Do we have any power to make them accountable? Abiy Ahmed and his supporters, to bring them to justice for causing this bloodshed. It's a war of choice. But Ethiopians are paying the price now. Not the Abiy family, not Abiy, even though he go around for 15 days and well protected, very in a secured area. He is not injured, he is not dying, but people are dying. People are displaced because of his misjudgment, failed leadership, conspiring with a dictator in Eritrea. That's now we have to ask ourselves, the international community. These guys are lying, they are still lying, but what can we do? Is there any penalty for lying and causing this bloodshed in Ethiopia? What can we do with this evidence now? That is a question we have to ask Ethiopians and the international community, if we can do something to bring these people into justice. So please read. Very interesting article. Thanks to New York Times. They're gonna claim again. Ethiopians. They're gonna say the war started with a northern attack. They're gonna say again. They don't care. They don't feel ashamed. Okay, let's go to the other news and finish up today's presentation. Ethiopia urges African to boycott controversial UN right meeting on Tigray conflict. There is upcoming, EU requested meeting tomorrow, and Ethiopia is very afraid of that meeting. This meeting, very afraid, became very nervous, very nervous. I don't know why. I don't know the reason. So Ethiopia urges Africans to boycott controversial UN right meeting on Tigray conflict. The Ethiopian government has urged all African countries represented at the United Nations Human Rights Council to boycott a session slated for Friday in which the UN diplomats are expected to discuss alleged atrocities in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. Ethiopia has been in a deadly conflict that has pitted the Ethiopian government against its regional adversary Tigray People Liberation Front (TPLF) since November last year, when in elements allied to the TPLF, that is designated as terrorist group by the Ethiopian parliament, attacked a federal army base in Tigray. I told you they are still claiming this thing. TPLF attacked the Northern Command, and TDF or TPLF designated as a terrorist organization. We remember they rushed to do that. They rushed because the Amara elite forced Abiy. If you don't do this, we're gonna revolt against you. So he has no choice, and he just called the ministers, then called the parliament without any question. They approved. They approved. Now, I don't know how they're gonna settle the issue. How are you gonna, negotiate with a terrorist? So you have to come back to the parliament to remove that name and negotiate with the terrorist. The terrorist in the quotation, Russia-Chana and TDF. So that's the situation. And Abiy Ahmed rushed to do that, and now he is facing challenge to negotiate with this. The war has been marred by allegation of atrocities that world bodies, including the United Nations, have warned may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Both sides to the conflict have been accused of involvement in those atrocities. But the Ethiopian government has accused Western power, led by the United States, of working to undermine its sovereignty, as alleged atrocities committed by the Tigray People Liberation Front in Amara and Afar region have gone without condemnation from the powerful countries. Okay, Ethiopia is begging the United States and other Western countries to condemn TPLF. You don't have to beg. They are watching. They are watching who's doing what. You don't have to ask for international media to cover. You already blocked all the international communities from covering this war because you don't want the global community to know how many Ethiopians are dying or dead so far. You don't want. You want to keep it secret. You want to continue the bloodshed. The United Nations Human Rights Council is set to discuss Tigray war crimes in a session slated for Friday, but Ethiopia is now urging African countries to boycott the meeting, which it has described as a political game by some Western countries that are opposed to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed government. That's a very serious accusation. The call is politically motivated and ignores all the Ethiopian government commitment to applying the recommendation of the joint UNEHRC investigative report on the alleged human rights abuse in Tigray. Director General of Neighboring Countries and IGAD Affairs at the Ethiopian Foreign Minister, Ambassador Fissaha Shaul, said Wednesday afternoon. He made the call during a discussion with African ambassadors in Addis Ababa today. He said today, but it's on Wednesday. Ambassador Fissa spoke at length to underscore the wanton destruction of human lives and properties in the Amara and Afar region that were under the TPLF occupation, and added that some countries and renowned mainstream media outlets have continued to misinform the public and tarnish the image of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian diplomats further reiterated the federal government's allegation against the TPLF that unnamed supporters of the terrorist group have attempted to delegitimize and undermine the government of Ethiopia. These are all just false claims. False claims. Nobody is undermining, talking about undermining or regime change. The United States, the Western countries are talking, advising him, and to have dialogue, reconciliation, and release all these political prisoners and discuss about the future of Ethiopia with all stakeholders. Nothing about neocolonialism, nothing about regime change. These are fake claims by Abiy Ahmed and his supporters at home and in the diaspora community. So, Ethiopia reiterates a need for African permanent seat at UNSC following EU request for special session on Ethiopia. The spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MOFA, Ambassador Dina Mufti, discussed during bi-weekly press briefing yesterday the recent request made by the European Union for a special session on Ethiopia at the United Nations Human Rights Council. He said, despite the Ethiopian government effort to implement the recommendations that the joint investigation team set forth, Geneva's UN Rights Council meeting is a perplexing and astonishing situation, he said. Among the 52 signatory countries who discussed Ethiopia's issues, there is not a single African country. It clearly shows how African badly needs a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. We shall continue to fight to handle African issues with African-led initiatives. That is an excuse, unacceptable excuse. No. When it is for your advantage, yes, you want to take African issue to African countries. But when you have an other advantage, you need European help, you need United States help. You cannot play it in such manner. About representation, I agree. We need African representation in UN Security Council. From 52, at least we have to have, certain number of African countries in that Security Council meeting, and even veto power. No problem. That is okay to demand to have representation. The ambassador also discussed political diplomacy, the humanitarian situation in the country, the ongoing war, and the international community pressure on Ethiopia, discussing the recent visit by State Councilor and Foreign Minister of China, Wang Yi, to Ethiopia on December 1, 2021. The spokesperson described the visit as a diplomatic achievement, citing that the country was under undue pressure from the international communities. He said Ethiopia shall continue to strengthen its bilateral relation with China. Okay. Addressing draft resolution by the Council of Ministers on the agenda on an inclusive national dialogue, Ambassador Dina Mufti explained that the resolution is yet to be submitted to the House of People's Representative for ratification in the following 1 or 2 weeks. He added, I don't have any information about who will take part in the dialogue. Ambassador Dina answered questions surrounding the travel warning issued by several embassies based in Addis Ababa, cautioning their citizens to leave immediately. The Ethiopian government called upon some of the ambassadors for explanation. Some of them were reprimanded, though we don't disclose such matters for diplomatic purpose, he said. The spokesperson expressed disappointment with the performance of Dr. Tedros Adhanom, head of World Health Organization. He said TPLF has destroyed and looted many clinics, hospitals, and healthcare facilities in the country, especially in Amhara and Afar regions. His silence on this matter shows how irresponsible he is. Okay, now you want him to say something. You don't even recognize this guy as an Ethiopian. You don't even support his nomination for World Health Organization. Now you blame him. That's not right. The ambassador criticized the delivery of humanitarian assistance in Ethiopia. The World Food Programme seems to have been very reluctant when asked to help 8.3 million people who are facing hunger in Amhara and Afar regions, while it was working aggressively in the Tigray region. The international communities have clearly manifested a double standard. Too many accusations from Ethiopian side. They are very nervous. I never seen a government very sensitive, very nervous, and begging the international community and the international media to cover whenever they want to cover the issue in Ethiopia. I never seen very sensitive, Ethiopian government, very sensitive, very aggressive for their power. Okay, freelance journalist working for AP detained in Ethiopia. A freelance video journalist working for the Associated Press has been detained by authorities in Ethiopia under the country's new war-connected state of emergency authority. Amir Aman Kiyaro was detained by police on November 28 after arriving back in Ethiopia following a reporting trip. His apprehension was first announced by the Associated Press on Wednesday. He is currently not facing any charges, according to the AP. State media reported on Kiaro's captivity on Wednesday, according to the AP. Federal police took issue with him interviewing a terrorist group which they constitute as serving the purpose of the faction, the AP responded, citing state media. Local journalists Thomas Ngida and Adisu Mulune have also reportedly been apprehended. Federal Police Inspector Tasfaye Olani told state media that the three journalists breached the country's state of emergency and anti-terrorism law, which could subject them to between 7 and 15 years in detention, according to the Associated Press. AP Executive Editor Julie Pace said the Newswire is extremely concerned that Kiaro was detained by the Ethiopian government accused of promoting terrorism. She called the claim baseless allegation and called for his release. Kiaro is an independent journalist who has done important work in Ethiopia on all sides of the conflict. We call on the Ethiopian government to release Kiaro immediately, Pace wrote in a statement. She also noted that the Newswire held off on revealing news of Kiaro's detention until now, so the AP could try to manage the situation through diplomatic channels. A state emergency was declared by the Ethiopian government in November following a year of war. Rival groups from the northern Tigray region of Ethiopia had teamed up with the Oromo Liberation Army, both of which were declared terrorist groups by the government and neared the capital. The emergency declaration reportedly authorized sweeping powers of the detention. In November, the Ethiopian Emergency Command tried to bar journalists from covering the war by prohibiting the sharing of non-official information regarding military-related movement, battlefront results, and situations, according to the Associated Press. Individuals from foreign media outlets have not been able to cover a majority of the war in Tigray, the AP noted, as communication have been cut off. Tens of thousands of individuals have died in the war, which began in November 2020. The Tigray forces want the government to nix a blockade on their region and want Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to relinquish authority. Kiaro has reported on both sides of the conflict throughout the year on behalf of the AP, including reports of Tigray forces conducting mass killings, according to the Newswire. Credit for this story is the heel. So, that is the situation. Still, journalists are the victims. Still, journalists are arrested, harassed, and as you said, they might be in jail for 15 years. Abiy Ahmed brought the terrorism law again after he removed it when he came to power. Now he brought it back. He tried to use to intimidate, to jail any opposition, any criticism. He became more than Isaias Afwerki now. He's much more aggressive than Isaias Afwerki. Okay, let's continue. Okay, this Right Commission urges immediate disclosure of missing journalists, reiterates SOE close monitoring for rights principles. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, EHRC, urged for the immediate disclosure of the whereabouts of Kibrom Worku and Tamrat Nagara, two journalists who are missing after they were taken to police custody. Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, EHRC, also reiterated that the relevant authorities should closely monitor that the state of emergency proclamation is implemented in a manner that strictly adheres to human rights principles. Kibrom Worku, the editor and the head of the news department of Ahadu Radio and the TV, remained in detention after court ordered his release on November 12, 2021. The police told a court in Addis Ababa that Kibrom was released on November 18 following a court order, but Kibrom parents said they haven't seen or heard from him. Similarly, the whereabouts of Tamrat Nagara, founder and editor-in-chief of Terera Network, remained unknown since his arrest on December 10. Tamrat's family said they were unable to find him at Addis Ababa Police Commission's Sostenya police station after his arrest on Friday. His wife, Salam Balai, told Addis Standard that their repeated attempts to locate him since his arrest were futile. Terera Network, on its part, said that Tamrat's family, who went to Sostenya police station on Friday, was told that his case was transferred to Oromia Police Commission. But then the family went to the Oromia Police Commission. They were told that Tamrat was not brought there, the statement said. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission said their whereabouts should be immediately disclosed to their families and the legal counsel and to guarantee their visitation rights. The commission further said that it was monitoring the situation of media personnel Kibrom Worku, Tamrat Nagara, Maaza Muhammad, and Iyasp Tesfaye, who are currently in detention. While the Commission is in discussion with the relevant authorities on their situation, it is gravely concerned that the whereabouts and the current situation of Tamrat Nagara and Kibrom Worku have not been disclosed to their families and the legal counsel as of the time of release of this statement, which constitute a violation of their visitation rights. Visitation rights should be respected and guaranteed even under a state of emergency. Iyasp Tesfaye and Maaza Muhammad are the other two journalist activists the Commission expressed it is concerned about. Both of them haven't been brought to court since their arrest on December 8 and December 10, respectively. Credit at this standard. So yes, that's a sign of lawlessness in Ethiopia. That's a sign of uh, not respecting uh, human rights and all international laws and Ethiopian laws. Ethiopian law is also, I think, uh, you have to appear in court after certain time. I think 24 hours or 48 hours. I'm not sure, but there is in a paper, there is in a constitution that Abiy don't care. Abiy will release you. Abiy will arrest you. He got total control of the court system and total control of the everything in that country within like 3 years. Nobody can challenge him. Nobody. The court can release you, and Abiy can order you to be kept in prison, undisclosed location. The same thing happened with the Oromo political prisoners. That's why Johar, Bakala Garba, all these Oromo politicians decide not to appear in the court because it's meaningless. The system is broken, the law is broken. This is from Congresswoman Karen Bass. Representative Bass seeks extension to Ethiopia's AGOA termination deadlines. On November 2nd, the Biden administration announced its intent to suspend Ethiopia from AGOA by January 1, 2022. Suspension of AGOA will reverse economic gains that have been hard-won by the people of Ethiopia, American investors, and exacerbate the circumstance of the most vulnerable sectors of the population, including women and children. I urge the administration to allow time for all parties in Ethiopia to take the necessary steps to end this conflict, deploy humanitarian aid to those who need it, and continue negotiations to garner peace. The abrupt timeline of January 1, 2022 will adversely impact citizens without necessarily alternating the pace of progress. That's from Representative Karen Bass about AGWA, uh, you know, uh, bringing Ethiopian agricultural product to U.S. market free of tax. So she is advocating to extend it instead of cutting it on January 1. And we'll see if the Biden administration listened to her. But she became soft now. She was aggressive at the beginning. Now the diaspora community supporting Abiy Ahmed, those who in California, I think San Francisco. So she is running for a mayor. She needs their votes, and I think she is loosening now, softening now about the issue. She was aggressive before. She was challenging Abiy Ahmed strongly. Now they threaten him, just in the same way. The Ethiopian diaspora community, those Abiy supporters are threatening other Democrats too. In Baltimore, Maryland, all these areas, wherever they think they are the majority or they think they have the vote to change from Democrat to Republican on these states. So they are try to intimidate the Democrat from speaking up, the United States from speaking up against Abiy Ahmed, against the war. They are using everything. Abiy is using everything. They are using the media. They are using the religious leader to send them into White House and the State Department. They are using the so-called those expertise. They are using the media campaign. They are using protests. They are using everything to support Abiy Ahmed policy, which is a destructive policy, which is a failed policy in that country, which is causing bloodshed and destruction and isolating Ethiopia from global stage. But they are still supporting him. So they are intimidating the American uh, community now. They are, intimidating Democrats. They are trying to use, their residency to vote against Democrats. So we'll see if they're gonna be successful. I don't think they will be successful. This all intimidation, insulting the United States, and threatening Democrats with a vote. I don't think it's gonna work for them. And that is the end of the reading material for today. Let's see a couple of videos and finish today's presentation. Thank you again. There we go. Okay, give me just a second. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. This is just two. One is about China-Russia relation, and the other one is about, come on.
A virtual summit and show of solidarity. The presidents of China and Russia, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, spoke for more than an hour on Wednesday, hailing their close ties.
The world has undergone unprecedented changes and a pandemic in the last century. Sino-Russian relations have withstood the test of various storms.
The deep historical traditions of friendship and mutual understanding have allowed us to take our relations to the next breakthrough level.
Trade between China and Russia exceeded $115 billion this year, a new high. The leaders pledged to increase cooperation on energy. Beijing already relies on Moscow for much of its minerals, oil, and natural gas. Plans are underway for nuclear power stations. They are also coordinating on efforts to further space exploration and scientific innovation. Chinese analysts say the relationship is now stronger than it's ever been.
The two countries support each other in their core interests. For example, when it comes to China's core interests, those are territorial integrity and sovereignty, development and security.
The meeting comes as both nations face mounting criticism for their policies at home and abroad. Russia for a mass buildup of troops on its border with Ukraine, and China for increasing military activity near Taiwan, a self-ruled island Beijing claims as its own. Common interests as well as common grievances have brought China and Russia closer together. Both face rising tensions with the US and its allies, as well as accusations of human rights abuses, and both have been actively supporting each other on the international stage. Officials in Washington have underscored a growing military threat from both Russia and China. Putin and Xi say they'll work more closely when it comes to security. They have conducted several joint exercises this year. Moscow provides Beijing with advanced weaponry, including fighter jets and missile defense systems.
The U.S. is now completely focused on great power competition after they left Afghanistan. So there's a short window of opportunity, I think, that both Moscow and Beijing see before the U.S. military kind of gears up for this great power competition, and they are trying to exploit that.
The leaders are known to share a good personal bond. Several countries have declared diplomatic boycotts of Beijing's 2022 Winter Olympics, but Vladimir Putin has confirmed his attendance, the only major leader to do so far. Katrina Yu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
Do you know, in today's digital world, major incidents can cost up to $400,000 per hour. When the incidents are not resolved quickly, the implications can be devastating to your business and your customers. Now, incidents large and small can be resolved fast with AlertOps. Keep business up and your customers happy. With AlertOps, a simply better incident response system with industry-leading intelligent features like automated response, dynamic routing, on-call scheduling, and advanced noise filtering, all at a fraction of the price. Start your free trial now. AlertOps, your best insurance policy to keep critical systems up and running.
That's an advertisement. So
Let's now take you through the updates on the nuclear deal negotiations with Iran. According to reports, Iran is set to allow the IAEA to reinstall surveillance cameras which were damaged at nuclear site in Karaj. Iranian media reports suggest that the security cameras will be reinstalled at the nuclear site housing centrifuge parts and manufacturing material. Iran had said that the cameras were earlier damaged in a sabotage attack and had since then refused the UN atomic watchdog's access to replace the cameras. However, Iran will not allow access to the recorded footage from the site. The reports come after Iran's foreign minister reportedly said that Tehran has reached a good agreement with the IAEA. Meanwhile, France's ambassador to the United Nations, Nicolas de Rivière, had read a joint statement from Britain, France, and Germany. Three European powers said they are rapidly reaching the end of the road to save the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. The comments suggest indirect US-Iran talks on preserving the pact may be approaching collapse, with all sides seeking to avoid being held responsible. The UN has called on Iran to reverse the steps inconsistent with its nuclear-related commitments, while calling on the Islamic Republic to return to original commitments. The UN has also urged Washington to lift sanctions on Tehran in line with the 2015 Iran nuclear deal.
For 2 years now, Iran has been taking unprecedented steps and recently accelerated the pace of most sensitive violations of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Iran has also curtailed monitoring by the International Atomic Energy Agency, leaving the international community with less knowledge of the status the Iranian nuclear programs. Iran's nuclear program has never been more advanced than it is today. This nuclear escalation is undermining international peace and security and the global non-proliferation system.
We also call on the Islamic Republic of Iran to reverse the steps it has taken that are not consistent with its nuclear-related commitments under the plan. In this reporting period, the International Atomic Energy Agency indicated that Iran has continued its research and development activities related to uranium metal production.
Speaking before the Council, Iran's representative Majid Ravanchi called sanctions imposed by the US an all-out economic war against Iran. Ravanchi reiterated Iran's demands of effective removal of all sanctions at once and in a verifiable manner.
The fact is that we have been completely deprived of our rights and benefits under the JCPOA for almost 4 years. Bearing in mind these realities, we insist on the effective removal of all sanctions at once and in a verifiable manner. The way that the US has treated its international obligations has necessitated such an approach.
Together with Germany and the European Union, Iran signed the JCPOA in 2015 alongside China, France, Russia, UK, and the US. Iran cast itself as the aggrieved party as a result of US decision to abandon the deal and reimpose harsh US sanctions. The move prompted Tehran to begin violating its nuclear restrictions. Iran still insists its program is peaceful. Freon is now available in your country.
okay, that's the last. So that's a good sign for to resolve Iran nuclear, controversial program in a peaceful manner. So we just wish to end it peacefully. We don't want any war. The other challenge, the relationship between China and Russia is hurting the issue in Ethiopia. We cannot get any resolution because of these two countries. Plus, even though India doesn't have any veto power, they are also, not supporting the resolution. Usually comes to that council. So there is no ending sight unless the European Union or the United States act, in certain way. Nothing can be achieved through the Security Council unless China and Russia change their mind. So that's all I have for today. Thank you, and please share, like my video, so we can update. We can be the voice for the voiceless. And the main thing for today is the disclosure of the cause, the root cause of Ethiopia's bloodshed. And it was cooked, prepared, well organized, well financed, in coordination with Abiy Ahmed and Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki before TDF attacked the northern front. And that is the cause. And I don't know how we're gonna make these officials accountable for this endless blood war. They choose to go to war. They choose to neutralize the TDF. So that is the main point for today. Thank you again. I will be back with other news and update. So long, and be safe.